Hey. Quick question: when you walk into a room, do people light up when they see you? Or do they kind of not? Yeah, I thought so. Here's the thing though, being likable isn't some magical gift you're born with. It's actually a skill you can learn, and I'm about to show you exactly how to do it. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll know the secrets that charismatic people use to make everyone around them feel amazing. Alright, let's get real for a second. We've all been there, right? You're at a party, a work event, or even just trying to make friends in a new city, and you feel like you're invisible. People seem to gravitate towards certain individuals while completely overlooking you. It's frustrating, it's lonely, and honestly, it can mess with your self-esteem. But here's what I've learned after years of studying human psychology and, let's be honest, making plenty of social mistakes myself. The people who seem naturally likable aren't actually that different from you. They just know a few key principles that most of us were never taught. I used to be that person who would show up to social events and somehow end up in the corner, scrolling through my phone and pretending to be busy. I'd watch other people effortlessly connect and wonder what was wrong with me. Was I boring? Awkward? Did I smell funny? Probably all of the above, if I'm being honest. But then something clicked. I started paying attention to the people who everyone seemed drawn to. I studied their behaviors, their conversations, their body language. And you know what I discovered? It wasn't about being the loudest person in the room or having the best stories or even being the most attractive. It was about something much simpler and much more powerful. Before we dive into the specific strategies, I want to address something that might be holding you back right now. A lot of people think that trying to be more likable is somehow fake or manipulative. Like you're pretending to be someone you're not just to get people to like you. But that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is becoming the best version of yourself. It's about removing the barriers that prevent people from seeing how awesome you actually are. It's about developing genuine skills that will not only make you more likable but also make you a better friend, partner, colleague, and human being. The truth is, most of us want to connect with others. We want to be liked, to belong, to feel understood. That's not shallow or manipulative, that's human nature. And when you learn how to make genuine connections with people, you're not just benefiting yourself. You're making other people feel good too. It's a win-win situation. So let's start with the foundation of likability, and this might surprise you. It's not about being funny or interesting or charming, although those things can help. The foundation of likability is actually making other people feel good about themselves when they're around you. Think about the people you enjoy spending time with most. I bet they're not necessarily the most accomplished or the most entertaining people you know. They're probably the people who make you feel heard, understood, and valued. They're the ones who remember details about your life, who ask thoughtful questions, who celebrate your wins and support you through your challenges. This is what psychologists call the reinforcement theory of attraction. People like being around those who make them feel positive emotions. It's that simple and that powerful. Now, let's talk about the number one skill that will instantly make you more likable: active listening. And I'm not talking about just waiting for your turn to speak while someone else is talking. I'm talking about really, truly listening with the intention of understanding rather than responding. Here's what most people do in conversations. They listen just enough to find an opening to share their own story or opinion. Someone says they went to Paris last summer, and immediately you're thinking about your trip to Italy and waiting to jump in with your own travel story. Sound familiar? But here's what likable people do differently: they lean in. They ask follow-up questions. They show genuine curiosity about the other person's experience. Instead of thinking about their own Paris story, they might ask, "What was your favorite part about Paris?" Or "Did anything surprise you about the city?" Or "How did you decide to go there?" This does two incredibly powerful things. First, it makes the other person feel valued and interesting. Second, it actually makes you more interesting to them because you're showing that you're the type of person who cares about others. I learned this lesson the hard way at a networking event a few years ago. I was talking to this woman who mentioned she was a graphic designer, and instead of asking her about her work, I immediately launched into my own story about a design project I was working on. I could see her eyes glaze over, and within minutes, she politely excused herself to get another drink and never came back. Later that same evening, I tried a different approach. I met a guy who mentioned he was into rock climbing, and instead of talking about my own hobbies, I asked him how he got started with climbing. Then I asked about his most challenging climb. Then about what he loved most about the sport. We ended up talking for over an hour, and by the end of the night, he was introducing me to other people as his new friend and insisting we should hang out again soon. The difference? In the first conversation, I was focused on myself. In the second, I was focused on him. And paradoxically, by making him the center of attention, I became more memorable and likable to him. But active listening is just the beginning. The next level of likability comes from something I call emotional mirroring. This is where you tune into the emotional energy of the person you're talking to and match it appropriately. Someone is excited about something, you match their enthusiasm. If they're sharing something serious or challenging, you respond with appropriate gravity and empathy. This doesn't mean you're being fake or pretending to feel things you don't feel. It means you're being emotionally intelligent and responsive to the person in front of you. Let me give you an example. Let's say someone comes up to you and says, "I just got promoted at work." Now, there are many ways you could respond. You could say, "That's nice," in a flat tone while barely looking up from your phone. Or you could say, "Oh wow, that's amazing. Tell me about it," with genuine enthusiasm and excitement. The second response makes the person feel heard and celebrated. It amplifies their positive emotion instead of dampening it. And trust me, they'll remember how you made them feel in that moment. On the flip side, if someone says, "I'm going through a really tough time with my relationship," you don't want to respond with high energy and enthusiasm. You want to match their more serious tone and show empathy. Something like, "I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds really difficult. Do you want to talk about it?" This might seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people get this wrong. They either respond to everything with the same level of energy, or they're so focused on what they want to say next that they completely miss the emotional cues the other person is giving them. Now let's talk about one of the most underestimated aspects of likability, your body language. Research shows that 55% of communication is body language, 38% is tone of voice, and only 7% is the actual words you use. That means 93% of how people perceive you has nothing to do with what you're actually saying. The good news is that you can dramatically improve how people perceive you, just by making some simple adjustments to your body language. And the best part? These changes will actually make you feel more confident too, which creates a positive feedback loop. First, let's talk about eye contact. This is probably the single most important aspect of body language when it comes to likability. Good eye contact shows that you're present, engaged, and interested in the person you're talking to. But there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. The wrong way is to stare intensely without breaking eye contact, which can make people feel uncomfortable or even threatened. The right way is to maintain eye contact for about 3 to 5 seconds at a time, then briefly look away, then back again. This feels natural and shows that you're engaged without being overwhelming. Here's a pro tip. When you're talking to someone, look at their eyes long enough to notice what color they are. This automatically creates the right amount of eye contact and helps you stay present in the conversation. Next, let's talk about your posture and positioning. When you're talking to someone, face them directly with your body, not just your head. This shows that you're fully engaged in the conversation. Keep your arms uncrossed and your hands visible. Crossed arms can make you seem defensive or closed off, even if that's not how you're feeling. Also, pay attention to the distance between you and the other person. Standing too close can make people uncomfortable, but standing too far away can make you seem disinterested. The sweet spot is usually about arm's length, but this can vary depending on the culture and the relationship you have with the person. Here's something that might sound counterintuitive. One of the best ways to be more likable is to be vulnerable. Not oversharing about your personal problems vulnerable, but showing that you're human and imperfect. People are drawn to authenticity, and nobody is perfect. When you pretend to have everything figured out, or when you try to impress people with how amazing your life is, it actually creates distance between you and others. But when you show a little vulnerability, it creates connection. This could be as simple as admitting when you don't know something instead of pretending you do, or sharing a minor struggle you're dealing with, or laughing at yourself when you make a small mistake. I remember being at a dinner party where someone was telling a story about their recent vacation to Japan, and they were clearly trying to impress everyone with how cultured and well-traveled they were. But then they mispronounced a Japanese word, and instead of brushing it off or getting defensive, they laughed and said, "I clearly need to work on my pronunciation before I go back." That moment of vulnerability made them instantly more relatable and likable to everyone at the table. Vulnerability works because it shows that you're secure enough in yourself to admit imperfection. It also gives other people permission to be human around you, which makes them feel more comfortable and connected to you. But there's a balance here. You want to share enough to be relatable without oversharing or making people uncomfortable. A good rule of thumb is to match the level of vulnerability that others are showing. If someone shares something personal, you can share something at a similar level. But if the conversation is light and surface level, don't suddenly dive into your deepest insecurities. Let's talk about something that can instantly make you more likable: remembering details about people. This is such a simple thing, but it has an incredibly powerful impact. When you remember someone's name, of course, but also when you remember details about their life, their interests, their challenges, it shows that you value them enough to pay attention and remember. It makes them feel seen and important. This doesn't mean you need to have a photographic memory. It just means being intentional about paying attention when people share things with you, and then following up on those things. For example, if someone mentions they have a job interview coming up, make a later mental note and ask them about it the next time you see them. If they mention they're training for a marathon, ask about their training progress. If they mention their kid is in a school play, ask how it went. These small gestures show that you care about them as a person, not just as someone to have a casual conversation with. And the beautiful thing is that when you start doing this consistently, people will start doing it back. They'll remember details about your life too, and your relationships will naturally deepen. Here's a practical tip. If you're not great at remembering details, take a few seconds after meeting someone new to jot down a note in your phone about them. Include their name, where you met them, and one or two interesting things they mentioned. Then review these notes before you see them again. Now I want to talk about something that might be uncomfortable but is absolutely crucial for likability: dealing with conflict and disagreement in a way that actually strengthens relationships rather than damaging them. Most people handle disagreement in one of two ways. They either avoid it completely, which can make them seem fake or wishy-washy, or they handle it aggressively, which obviously doesn't make them likable. But there's a third way that actually makes people respect and like you more. The key is to disagree without being disagreeable. You can have different opinions and even express them clearly while still being respectful and kind. In fact, people often respect you more when you have the courage to respectfully disagree with them than when you just agree with everything they say. Here's how to do it. First, acknowledge their perspective. You might say something like, "I can see why you'd feel that way," or "That's an interesting point." Then share your perspective without attacking theirs. "I see it a bit differently," or "My experience has been." Finally, if appropriate, ask questions to understand their viewpoint better or find common ground. For example, let's say someone says they think social media is completely toxic and should be banned. Instead of saying, "That's ridiculous, social media has lots of benefits," you could say, "I can definitely see how social media can be harmful in many ways. I've noticed some of those negative effects too. I guess I've also found some positive aspects, like staying connected with family who live far away. What's been your experience that's made you feel so strongly about it? This approach shows that you're thoughtful, that you respect their opinion even if you don't share it, and that you're interested in understanding them better. It often leads to much more interesting and productive conversations than either avoiding disagreement or fighting about it. Let's talk about the power of positive energy. Now, I'm not talking about being fake positive or pretending everything is awesome when it's not. I'm talking about choosing to focus on possibilities rather than problems, solutions rather than complaints, and what's going well rather than what's going wrong. People are naturally drawn to those who make them feel good, and consistently negative people tend to drain the energy out of rooms. This doesn't mean you can't have bad days or share challenges with close friends. It means being mindful of the overall energy you're bringing to your interactions. Here's a simple test. After you have a conversation with someone, do they feel better or worse than they did before? If you're consistently making people feel worse, they're going to start avoiding you, even if they can't quite put their finger on why. One way to bring more positive energy to your interactions is to look for opportunities to give genuine compliments. Notice when someone has done something well, when they look nice, when they've made a positive change. And then tell them. Most people are starved for genuine appreciation and recognition. But here's the key. The compliment has to be genuine and specific. Instead of saying, "You look nice," say, "That color looks great on you," or "I love how you styled your hair today." Instead of saying, "Good job," say, "I really appreciated how you handled that difficult situation earlier. You stayed calm and found a solution that worked for everyone." Specific compliments show that you're actually paying attention, and they feel much more meaningful than generic praise. Now let's talk about something that can make or break your likability: how you handle other people's success. This is a big one because it reveals a lot about your character. When someone you know gets a promotion, wins an award, achieves a goal, or has something good happen to them, how do you respond? Do you feel genuinely happy for them and express that enthusiasm? Or do you feel a little jealous or resentful, even if you don't show it? Here's the thing. People can sense your genuine emotions more than you might think. If you're secretly jealous or resentful of their success, they'll pick up on it, even if you say the right words. And that will damage your relationship with them. But if you can genuinely celebrate other people's wins, you become the kind of person they want to share good news with. You become someone they associate with positive feelings and experiences. This isn't always easy, especially if you're going through a tough time yourself or if you feel like the other person's success highlights your own lack of progress. But learning to genuinely celebrate others is one of the most powerful things you can do for your relationships and your own happiness. Here's how to get better at this. First, remember that someone else's success doesn't diminish your own opportunities. There's not a limited amount of success in the world. Someone else winning doesn't mean you're losing. Second, try to find something specific to appreciate about their achievement. Maybe they worked really hard for it, or they overcame obstacles, or they're using their success to help others. Focusing on these aspects can help you feel genuinely happy for them. Third, use their success as inspiration rather than comparison. Instead of thinking, "Why can't I achieve what they have?" think, "What can I learn from their approach?" or "How can their success motivate me to work toward my own goals?" Let's talk about the art of conversation, because knowing how to keep a conversation flowing naturally is crucial for likability. Most people struggle with this, especially when meeting someone new or when there's a lull in the conversation. The secret is to think of conversation like a tennis match. You want to keep the ball in play, going back and forth, with each person adding something to keep the rally going. But unlike tennis, the goal isn't to win points, it's to keep the game fun and engaging for both players. Here are some practical techniques for keeping conversations flowing. First, use the SAS method: share, ask, share. You share something about yourself, ask a question about them, then share something related to their response. This creates a natural back-and-forth rhythm. For example, "I just finished reading this amazing book about productivity," share. "Are you into reading productivity books, or do you prefer fiction?" Ask. Then based on their answer, you share something related to what they said. Another technique is to use conversation threading. This means picking up on different threads or topics that come up in conversation and following them. If someone mentions they just got back from a trip to Portland, you could follow the travel thread. What took you to Portland? The food thread. I hear the food scene there is incredible. Or the timing thread. How long were you there? The key is to follow threads that seem most interesting to the other person. Pay attention to what they light up about or spend more time talking about, and follow those threads. Here's something that might surprise you. One of the most likable things you can do is to ask for small favors. This seems counterintuitive, right? You'd think asking for favors would make people like you less, not more. But there's actually a psychological principle called the Benjamin Franklin effect that explains why this works. When someone does a small favor for you, their brain rationalizes that they must like you, otherwise why would they have helped you? This actually increases their positive feelings toward you. The key word here is small. We're talking about asking someone to hold your place in line while you grab something you forgot, or asking for a recommendation for a good restaurant in their neighborhood, or asking them to introduce you to someone they know. These are favors that are easy to say yes to and don't require a significant investment of time or energy. This works because it gives people an opportunity to be helpful and generous, which makes them feel good about themselves. And when people feel good about themselves around you, they associate those positive feelings with you. But be careful not to overdo this. You don't want to become the person who's always asking for things. The key is to balance asking for small favors with being helpful to others in return. Let's talk about something that can instantly make you more memorable and likable: being genuinely curious about the world and the people around you. Curious people are interesting to be around because they ask thoughtful questions, they notice things others miss, and they bring a sense of wonder and enthusiasm to conversations. When you're genuinely curious about someone, you naturally ask better questions. Instead of asking, "What do you do for work?" which is kind of boring and predictable, you might ask, "What's the most interesting part of your?" that most people don't understand. Curious people also tend to be better listeners because they're actually interested in the answers to their questions. They follow up, they ask for clarification, they want to understand. And here's the beautiful part: when you show genuine curiosity about someone, they feel valued and interesting. They associate those good feelings with you, which makes them want to spend more time with you. You can develop your curiosity by practicing what I call assumptionless questioning. Instead of assuming you know what someone means or what their experience was like, ask questions to really understand. Instead of assuming that someone's job is boring or stressful or exciting, ask them about it and find out. Now I want to address something that holds a lot of people back from being more likable: the fear of being judged or rejected. This fear can make you hold back, play it safe, and avoid the kind of authentic interactions that create real connection. Here's the truth: some people aren't going to like you, and that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay, it's inevitable and necessary. If you try to be likable to everyone, you'll end up being memorable to no one. The people who are most universally liked aren't necessarily the most bland or inoffensive. They're the people who are genuinely themselves, who have opinions and personality, but who express those things in ways that are respectful and kind. Think about the people you like most in your life. They probably aren't perfect. They probably have quirks, flaws, and opinions you don't always agree with. But you like them because they're real, they're consistent, and they make you feel good when you're around them. The fear of judgment often comes from a place of insecurity or low self-worth. We worry that if people really knew us, they wouldn't like us. But the opposite is usually true. When you're authentic and vulnerable, you give people permission to be the same, and that creates deeper, more meaningful connections. Let's talk about something practical that can immediately improve your likability: your digital presence and how you interact with people online. In today's world, a lot of our interactions happen through text, social media, and other digital platforms, and many people struggle to be likable in these contexts. The key principles of likability still apply online, but you have to work a little harder because you don't have the benefit of tone of voice, body language, and facial expressions to convey your meaning. When you're texting or messaging someone, take an extra second to consider how your message might be interpreted. Use emojis or other indicators to show your tone when appropriate. If you're being sarcastic or joking, make that clear because it's easy for those things to be misunderstood in text. On social media, focus on being positive and supportive rather than controversial or negative. Share things that are interesting, helpful, or uplifting. Celebrate other people's successes. Ask thoughtful questions. Engage meaningfully with other people's content instead of just posting your own stuff and disappearing. And here's a big one: respond to messages and comments in a timely manner. When someone reaches out to you digitally, even just to say hi, and you don't respond for days or weeks, it sends the message that you don't value the relationship. Obviously, you don't need to be glued to your phone, but try to respond within a reasonable time frame. As we start to wrap up, I want to talk about something that ties all of these strategies together: the importance of being consistent. Likability isn't about putting on a performance or being on all the time. It's about consistently showing up as someone who makes others feel valued, heard, and appreciated. This means being the same person whether you're talking to your boss, your server at a restaurant, your best friend, or a stranger at a party. It means treating everyone with respect and kindness, regardless of what they can do for you. People notice when you're only nice to them when you want something, or when you treat service workers poorly but are charming to people you want to impress. That kind of inconsistency is a major turnoff and will damage your reputation and relationships. On the other hand, when you're consistently kind, respectful, and genuine, people notice that too. They know they can count on you to be the same person in different situations, and that builds trust and likability over time. Here's the thing about likability that I really want you to understand: it's not about being perfect. It's not about never having bad days or never making mistakes. It's about being the kind of person who makes others feel good about themselves and about life in general. Some of the most likable people I know are also some of the most imperfect. They have flaws, they make mistakes, they have bad days. But they're kind, they're genuine, they're interested in others, and they take responsibility when they mess up. The strategies I've shared with you today aren't about manipulating people or putting on a fake persona. They're about becoming the best version of yourself, the version that connects authentically with others and creates positive experiences for everyone involved. And here's the beautiful thing: as you start implementing these strategies, you'll not only become more likable to others, but you'll also start to like yourself more. When you're focused on making others feel good, when you're genuinely interested in people, when you're being authentic and kind, you naturally feel better about who you are. So let's recap the key strategies we've covered today. First, focus on making others feel good about themselves when they're around you. Practice active listening, really listen to understand, not just to respond. Use emotional mirroring to connect with people on their level. Pay attention to your body language, especially eye contact and open posture. Be appropriately vulnerable to show your authentic self. Remember details about people to show you value them. Learn to disagree without being disagreeable. Bring positive energy to your interactions. Genuinely celebrate other people's successes. Keep conversations flowing with techniques like SAS and conversation threading. Ask for small favors to create connection. Be genuinely curious about the world and the people around you. Don't let fear of judgment hold you back from being authentic. Be mindful of your digital presence and interactions. And above all, be consistent in how you treat people. These aren't just strategies for being more likable, they're strategies for being a better person and creating more meaningful relationships in your life. I want to leave you with this thought: the people who are most liked aren't necessarily the most talented, the most attractive, or the most successful. They're the people who make others feel seen, heard, and valued. They're the people who bring out the best in others and who create positive experiences wherever they go. You have the power to be that person. You have the power to walk into any room and make it a little brighter, to have any conversation and make the other person feel a little better about themselves, to be the kind of person that others genuinely enjoy being around. It starts with a decision, the decision to focus on others instead of yourself, to be genuinely interested in people, to be kind and authentic and present. And then it's just a matter of practice. So here's my challenge for you. Pick one or two of the strategies we talked about today and start implementing them immediately. Maybe it's improving your active listening skills, or remembering to ask follow-up questions, or giving more genuine compliments. Start small, be consistent. Remember, being likable isn't about being perfect or having some magical charisma. It's about being genuinely interested in others, being kind, being authentic, and making people feel good when they're around you. You can do this. Thanks for watching, and if this video helped you, make sure to like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel Elevate Limit for more content that will help you build better relationships and live a more connected life. See you in the next one.